Good morning. We're live from River Valley Room. Yes, we're ready to go.
All right, good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and acknowledge the diverse indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nikorasu, as well as Métis and Inuit, and now settlers from around the world. And I will do a roll call of council members. I'll start on this side. Councillor Wright,
Good morning.
Councillor Knack,
Good morning.
Councillor Principe,
Good morning.
Councillor Stevenson,
Good morning.
Councillor Paquette,
Morning.
Councillor Tang,
Good morning.
Councillor Hamilton,
Good morning.
Councillor Rutherford,
Good morning.
Councillor Salvador,
Good morning.
Councillor Cartmel,
Good morning.
Councillor Rice,
Good morning.
and Councillor Jans.
Good morning.
All right, so everyone is here. Adoption of the agenda. Councillor Hamilton,
Yeah, I'll move adoption of the November 1st Emergency Advisory Committee meeting agenda.
Second.
second by Councillor Rice. Please vote.
I'm a yes. Yes.
Also a yes. Yes.
Yes for me on the Cartmill.
So I have Councillor Rutherford, Councillor Tang as yeses. Yes. And we're just waiting on one more vote. There we go. And we have all the votes.
Display the votes, please.
It's not just give us a minute. So we are having some technical difficulties, but it is carried 13-0.
So, okay, the vote is carried. We can display it. We're having some technical difficulties with the system. I'll go to Councillor Knack for the approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. I'll move the approval of the minutes from the November 9th, 2021 Emergency Advisory Committee meeting.
Need a seconder?
Second.
Second by Councillor Wright. Please vote. Oops.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please.
And again, we're still having some technical issues, but it was carried 13-0.
Okay, the vote is carried 13-0 to approve the minutes. Any protocol items? Seeing none. And select items for debate. There's only one item to be selected. Councillor Rutherford, you want to select that?
Sure, I'll select item 3.1.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so that is it. Request to speak, none. Request for specific time on agenda, none. We are into our first item, 3.1 Emergency Management Advisory Committee Annual Update Verbal Report. I'll go over to our city manager to do so.
Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. Today's presentation provides the Emergency Advisory Committee with an update on administration's emergency management activities for the year 2022. Joining me today here is Fire Chief Joe Zatilny and the Acting Deputy Fire Chief of Emergency Management, Rod Koszowski. 22 has been a year of unique challenges. The new year began with the threat of the highly transmissible Omicron variant and the potential for a fifth wave of COVID-19. By spring, most public health restrictions had been lifted. Most adult Edmontonians had received at least one vaccination shot, and Edmontonians began to slowly resume gathering and returning to workplaces, schools, and arts and entertainment activities. In March, we began to welcome Ukrainians displaced by the Russian invasion, and throughout the Office of Emergency Management saw a return to pre-COVID levels of activity. I really want to highlight the value of using the Office of Emergency Management to help as a coordinating agency for some unique things such as displaced Ukrainians from the Russian invasion. It really helped to ensure an integrated and effective system of supports across our entire city. This annual update fulfills the requirements set out in the Emergency Management Bylaw 19091. As a reminder, the Mayor is the chair of the Emergency Advisory Committee and all councillors are members of the committee. The Emergency Advisory Committee functions to provide guidance and direction to the Emergency Management Agency. As City Manager, I am the Director of that agency. The committee also approves the city's emergency management plan. This committee can also has the powers to declare a state of local emergency and to exercise council's powers and duties under the Emergency Management Act. When COVID-19 health restrictions were lifted in the spring, access to the Healthstone transmission data and statistics was reduced for the city. The city has continued to monitor as best we can COVID-19 cases and wastewater data and has adjusted workplace controls as necessary, as well as controls in our public spaces. We continue to encourage employees to have a COVID-19 booster shot when appropriate and get a flu shot to protect against respiratory illnesses. And that's particularly important as we head into the flu season and in this time now. So we'd strongly encourage folks to get their booster and to get their flu shot. The city has begun a review or lessons learned analysis of our COVID-19 response with the goal of understanding and improving areas where we could strengthen our performance. And I'll present the results of that work and the lessons learned in 2022 or 2023 once that's done. The City of Edmonton and our Office of Emergency Management have played an important role in the support of displaced Ukrainians. Working closely with the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress of the Alberta branch, we have worked alongside several social agencies since late March to support warm and welcome arrivals to Edmonton. The city also contributed to supplies being flown back to Ukraine to help out. In May, we shared a memo outlining the different ways the city is supporting displaced Ukrainians. I'm happy to report that the Leisure Access Program has had 1,371 applications, resulting in 2,875 individuals who became members. To date, displaced Ukrainians make up close to 4% of the total program membership, which is approximately 74,000. For the first 3 quarters of 2022, the Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, was activated on 16 different occasions for events such as the Papal Visit, the NHL playoffs, the so-called Freedom Convoys, and Canada Day celebrations. The next planned activation is for this coming New Year's Eve. We are currently working with the Community Recreation and Culture Branch to develop a memorandum of understanding for facilities in several areas of the city that may be used as short-term shelter and emergency reception centers. And I'd like to take a moment here to share an example of a recent incident that exemplifies our integrated emergency services response and how the MOU discussions will strengthen our ability to repeat that success based on some lessons learned. A fire on March 19th, 2021 at 120th Avenue and 82nd Street displaced 75 people from an apartment building at 3 o'clock in the morning. Thanks to the great working relationship between the EOC and the Commonwealth Stadium management team, we were able to use a room at Commonwealth to provide necessities for these people until accommodations were located by the Red Cross about 4.5 hours later. Now, after a 2-year absence due to the pandemic, Get Ready in the Park made its return during Emergency Preparedness Week in May. More than 60 agencies came out to show the public how they are involved during emergency incidents and how the public can better prepare for an emergency. And the crowd was estimated at between 15 and 20,000 people. The Incident Command System is the basis for incident and event management at the City of Edmonton. Our Office of Emergency Management follows the training standards of ICS Canada and the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, which is the authority having jurisdiction in Alberta, overseeing ICS training and instructor standards. The Office of Emergency Management's mission is to prepare the City of Edmonton to respond and recover from natural, technological, and/or human-caused emergencies and disasters, and this office prepares the city through that ICS training. 12 ICS courses will be completed by the end of 2022. Courses are available to all city staff with priority given to individuals who may be called upon to assist with an emergency incident, either on scene or as part of the Emergency Operations Center. It's important that we have the right number of people and potential substitutes properly trained. OEM's training philosophy is to provide interdisciplinary training to share how other agencies are involved in the management of emergency situations. ICS training also provides an opportunity for various disciplines, police, fire, EMS, many city departments, and external partners to work together during the exercises. And often when we do the training, we do it with external partners taking the training at the same time. We'd like to take this opportunity to remind City Council that they are required to complete the Municipal Elected Officials course as legislated by the Government of Alberta, and we'll be following up with your offices to reshare the link to this online course and ensure everyone meets this requirement, ideally no later than the end of this year. We are planning a full-scale simulation exercise to be held in spring 2023. We have not done this in a few years because we were under the pandemic. That actually substituted as a full-scale exercise. The exercise we are thinking about or planning on will encompass numerous city agencies, partner groups, and is currently in the initial stages of planning with Edmonton Police Service and our Office of Emergency Management, as well as other agencies. The exercise will also include the utilization of the city's Emergency Management Agency and the Emergency Advisory Committee, yourselves, so we want to exercise council as well as part of this exercise. And I can assure you that the exercise will be designed within the context of a climate emergency we continue to find ourselves in. So I want the exercise to be something that is related to a climate emergency. So whether it's a fire, flood, ice storm, or whatever, I can assure you that it will be directly related to the emergency that we are in. The OEM is currently working with our provincial partners at the Alberta Emergency Management Agency to conduct our annual review to ensure that the city's emergency management program is in compliance with legislative requirements. Last year we had a pretty positive review, and I expect the same this year. The results are expected to be back in November, and they will be shared with the Emergency Management Agency, and they will be presented to EAC in the new year. So I think you can be confident that if there is an emergency, the city is ready and willing and able to respond. We have appropriate governance. We have appropriate operational arrangements in place. We continually train to make sure we are ready. And with that, we would be pleased to take any questions you might have.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. Also, the work that all of you have been doing. There has been a number of, I understand, I know that there has been a number of activations of the of the system, right? So, appreciate all the work. So please do convey our appreciations to all the folks who work in the emergency management ecosystem. Thank you so much for that. And questions, colleagues? Just waiting for the, here we go. Councillor Rutherford, want to go first? Go ahead.
Sure. Should I put the receipt for information on the floor too?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Why not? Yeah.
I move receipt of information.
Okay. Do we need a second, or is this committee?
No.
No, we don't.
This is committee, there's no
got
need
it.
for a seconder.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, so great presentation, great work. One thing that came up in public hearing recently was around sort of the coordination between Strathcona County and the city of Edmonton in the northeast.
And can you move close to the mic?
The northeast side of Edmonton, in terms of if there's any sort of industrial incident within the kind of refinery area. And I was wondering if you could speak more to sort of plans around that to mitigate or consider for those residents that are on the northeast side of Edmonton.
Yeah, maybe I'll just start. Councillor was saying that we do allow some development within a certain distance from that area. So that is part of sort of our zoning and development process. But I'll just see if the chief or Rod wants to comment on preparedness for those areas.
So I can share with you that as a group, we do work with Strathcona District municipality, and with the oil and gas industry out there, and we meet with them quite regular, and so they have developed their own emergency plans. We do participate in their emergency exercises as well, and that way we can see with how their response is going to be, and then how Edmonton can support that response as well.
And I would also say, Councillor, that when we do our exercises, our annual exercise, we will invite all the regional municipalities to either be participants in the exercise and or observers, so that, because a key, I think, complication in emergency management is jurisdictions and boundaries. And if something happens in Edmonton or Strathcona County, it's likely to affect each other. So as part of the training and preparedness, we'll do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say in this case, it's not likely to. There's a high probability because the boundary of where I remember working for Strathcona County, and the boundary of where would be affected goes into Edmonton.
Absolutely.
So I think, so how do we, do we communicate that all with the areas that are in that boundary to the residents there or, like the get prepared, do we do extra kind of anything to support sort of that emergency preparedness around the vulnerabilities, the unique vulnerabilities that area has?
I think, I don't know if we do a specific sort of communication on that particular vulnerability. We can take that back, and I would say it's more of a general emergency management for everyone is kind of what we focus on. But we can take that back and maybe assess whether that's required. And yeah.
And so with the city plan and the goals of infill, is there any special overlay for that area? Because I do know that when we saw the thing that the resident that brought up the information from the public hearing, which wasn't relevant to public hearing but is relevant for today, talked about the density and then the level of risk that increases with density. So are we looking at that in the build out of the city and the city plan?
Yeah, I think we should look at that, and I discussed this with DCM McCabe after that public hearing, and so I think we need to delve into that a little more based on some of those concerns raised. Yeah.
Perfect. That's all my questions. Great work. Great report. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Wright.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, in regards to the training, the incident command training, you said it's open to all. Are there any positions that are considered mandatory to take it?
Yes, there are, Councillor. For example, my position is there's a mandatory, and I'm actually in the process of a several-year program because there's a lot of specific training. And then, so depending on what your position is, there are things you must do. Also, we have put some of the ICS training not that we had to do it, but we have embedded it in some of the fire leadership training, for example. So to get to a certain rank, I think it's captain, you have to take the ICS training. So some people absolutely, it's mandatory for the jobs you do. And what I've done in my case is we've instructed all of ELT to take the training as well, so that if I'm away or gone, you know, we always have backup. So, and it's just a constant requirement to with, you know, turnover and things like that to train. But we do have very permanent and must required training.
Okay, perfect. And for the municipal elected officials course, is that an annual thing that we have to do, or is that?
No, it's something you have to do within as soon as possible after being elected.
So
and,
if it was done within the first 90 days, I think it says there's no requirement to do it
yeah,
anymore.
once you've done it, that's the course you need to take for your term. If you get reelected in 4 years, you would have to retake it. And I think more importantly, though, once you've done that training, then we need to do that collective training. And I do plan as part of our exercise to make sure council is exercised in terms of complex decision making like we've had to do during the pandemic.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Tang.
Great, thank you very much. Your teams have been very busy for the past while. I really appreciate all the work. I was wondering, in terms of the monitoring, when the legislature goes back in session, the Premier has made some strong commitment on the Human Rights Act when it comes to workplace vaccine mandates. Do you see that significantly impacting us?
Yes, Councillor. I would potential. I think that has become a polarizing issue in the country, and we saw that play out during the pandemic. And I suspect that as legislation is contemplated for different changes, we could see things like convoys and/or protests that could potentially impact and cause us to stand up, as we have for the so-called freedom convoys. Yeah.
Speaking of which. If you're doing kind of a lessons learned analysis next year for the COVID pandemic, will you be also doing something like postmortem for the convoy protest handling, since that was also quite high profile and quite intensive?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done a bit of that internally already, and but you know, largely I think some of our deductions were that it was highly successful in that we didn't have anybody spend more than a couple of hours or a few hours. Very annoying, I know, for some Edmontonians, but I think the success of those operations were that we did not have any permanent sort of encampments of protesters stay as we saw in Ottawa, and I think that was deliberate. That was part of our plan. So
right, and I guess what I'm asking is so that will come back in 2023 at some point.
We can. I could take that away. I don't know if we had planned to bring that one back, but I can if there's a desire to.
Yeah,
for sure.
Maybe I'll just flag that for you.
Sure.
Especially considering that if there might be future implications, might be a good thing to know.
Sure.
And my colleagues have asked some of my other questions. So anyways, excellent work. Thank you very much for this report.
Thank you, Councillor Tang. Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi, and also thank administration and fire chief and your team here, and did wonderful work. And then in the past year, I have two related questions. I'm not 100% sure if I should ask during this committee or not, and if not, just let me know. And so the first one is regarding the emergency response to some medical, for some medical codes, our fire department, and regarding the access to the building. So I think I had a meeting with fire chief and discussed this. And because right now is during the budget, and I don't know how we can address that, because every time influx, our fire department get the phone call, we just go there only for the purpose of give the key, open the door, and then get our two firefighters there, one truck there. I want to look at how we could, from the cost-effective and efficiency perspective, and otherwise, and then it's lots of cost just for go there to open the building apartment door for that emergency response. So is there any way we could address this? I know it's involved AHS, involved with EMS, and so I just want to bring this up again and say, is there any way we could address this from that perspective?
Yeah, I would say, Councillor, it's not directly relevant to emergency management operations because it's sort of day-to-day operations where that gets involved. But we have looked at that. We are working with EMS, and we've also evaluated that it's not been a huge cost in terms of disrupting operations. So, but I know the fire chief will continue to work with EMS on essentially EMS finding a way to do that themselves. But Joe, do you want to comment more?
Yeah, and we do know that EMS does have their own lockbox program in Edmonton, but it may have been impacted during the COVID pandemic, and so we're waiting to hear how well they've been able to get that back online. But generally, they would meet with building owners and have their own lockbox and be able to access the buildings where there's high instances of medical occurrences. And when that doesn't work, or we're typically tasked on some of the calls then we would arrive on scene and we would support as well.
So this specific issue brought to me and over by the apartment building residents from my constituents, and specifically, and then they worry about the timing, and they also worry about the cost, and because they don't see the value, and the if they just need EMS and then fire truck and the firefighter come in just for open the building door, and because AHS does not have that access and to the building, and then only our based on the bylaw, and only our fire department has that. So that's I want to bring that in, and then I will follow up continually for that. That is one question. I still have another question.
Yeah, and Councillor Rice, I just say the absolute answer for that is for EMS to have its own lockbox program, but you know,
but I
know,
heard they don't. I heard they don't, and even we had a conversation, we had a meeting. They don't have the lockbox for that.
So, EMS does have a lockbox program in the city of Edmonton, and it has been in operation, but we do believe it was impacted during the pandemic based on the conversations I've had with AHS. So as they're working on their program to get it up and running, I can tell you we are still conducting a review of our lower acuity calls in fire to make sure that we're being as effective as we can be with our resources, and making sure that they're freed up to address the higher risk calls that we do see.
Okay, thank you. I will follow up because this information I received is different from the information I received previously. So I will definitely follow up with that. So my another question is related to also is request from my constituents is about the emergency response to the traffic incident happened right away. And so the concern is about when the traffic, like if last week, we did have the 8-year girl and headed and by the school bus. And then the concern brought to me right now, and is that location, and without any measure in place, without any sign in place, you already reopened, and so people worry about that as well.
I think that'd probably be a question for kind of regular operations of the operations center.
Okay,
right?
so I can ask you that. Yes,
offline
sure.
Or in a, okay, yeah. All right. Thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Jans.
Thank you for this. I guess to administration, of the 16 EOC activations last year, how many, I guess, how do we judge the success of an activation?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Councillor Jans, because I would say I judge the success of an activation in terms of inter sort of agency coordination and good sort of clarity on that. So for example, I think the papal visit is a good example. We didn't have any major disruptions to that. We didn't have any major incidents during that. But I think a good reason for that was because we were so well integrated in the Emergency Operations Center, and we're able to communicate on things like logistics. And so the activation often prevents worse things from happening from my perspective. And quite frankly, the success of an activation is when you get to deactivate a few hours later with no major incidents, and that proactive approach really helps. So, and I would also say that I will always activate it. I'd rather activate it and people coordinate for a bit and maybe not have to do too much, rather than not have it activated in a case. So I guess I would never hesitate to activate it.
Yeah. Is it possible, and I think I've received this for the convoy, I asked for a memo about the cost of the activation to respond to the convoy, and I can't remember. I think it was I won't even speculate the number, but I think it'd be helpful for us just to get some of these costs for future, because I think it is a reminder that just the burden that municipalities are taking on, and how it does add up. Like, it can cross $1 million very quickly. And I guess it'd be fair to say, so of these 16 activations, to my knowledge, there were no fatalities.
Yes, correct. With the one exception of we were activated, not so much the office, but we were certainly in activation mode for the entire pandemic. And of course, there were fatalities with respect to the pandemic.
Yes.
But with that one exception, I would say correct. We did not have any fatalities that I'm aware of in the activations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also probably saw a diversion of major injuries or accidents, like we didn't see major injuries at the papal visit or anything like that too, right?
Yeah, correct. And I would also say that despite the fact that all those activations overall went well, a key success for the activation is for me to be able to tell council what's going on as well. So, and it's that situational awareness. So that is a key factor for me. And I think you'll recall during the so-called Freedom Convoy protests and things like that, just giving council an awareness of what was going on, what was being done was helpful to our governance and to our leadership, I would say.
Yeah, no, and I want to be clear. I'm very happy that we do have the EOC, and I am thankful for your leadership this year in these areas. I'm curious about it because one thing I wrestle with is it's about a bit of a dark turn, if you will, but I was trying to look into the causes of deaths for Edmontonians, and especially for those under 40, and opioids, suicide, car collisions. These seem to be the top three, and I think about this all the time around, because there was a huge push last year with the toxic drug supply about declaring an overdose emergency, and sometimes I wonder, we saw close to 700 deaths in Edmonton in 1 year from opioids, and just other major causes. Like we saw 21 people die from car collisions. We saw or being hit by vehicles. Suicide still. I saw the stat in the LRT the other morning. 1 in 11 of our neighbors attempt suicide. I mean, so I just wonder how some of these enormous loss of lives we just become numb to, and I guess this isn't maybe a question for today with the EOC, but just thinking about how to contextualize the true risks and threats to Edmontonians in our own lives as we make our decisions.
Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly say that I think that is absolutely an important factor for council and administration to consider. I think that factor should be separated, if you will, from activations and things like activating emergency management situations. My advice to council on sort of activations of EOCs or invoking sort of emergency measures will always be The only time I'd recommend that is if we need a power. If we need additional power to do something, as we did in some of the incidents in the last 3 years, that's when you activate. But I also think what you're mentioning is important, but should be considered perhaps separately from sort of emergency management activations.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Jans. Councillor Stevenson.
Yes, thank you, and thanks so much for the presentation. Mr. Corbould, your comments around the importance of integration got me thinking about the integrated dispatch center. Just wondering if the emergency management office is that going to be part of the independent integrated dispatch center? Or are there ways to sort of build on the work that's going on with the dispatch center to support the emergency management work?
Yeah, I would say that it won't be one and the same. The dispatch center is really for day-to-day operations, whereas emergency management is in a declared emergency. So, but there will be a close relationship with the emergency management office and that joint dispatch center, much like there is between the emergency management office and all the different separated dispatch centers today. Once they are joined, it's another real good reason to put them in joint, because it'll make it a lot easier for the Office of Emergency Management to coordinate with them in those times, because that's an important connection as you indicated, and but it'll be easier with joint dispatch than it is today, and that program is moving forward. We've got a good charter. I'll be briefing council probably in Q1 as to our progress towards joint dispatch, because it is moving along nicely, I would say.
That's great. That's great to hear that news. And yeah, another great reason to continue advancing that work. So thank you so much, and thanks for all the work that you do in these stressful situations. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Rutherford.
Yes, sorry, I realized I did have more questions, so I apologize. There's been a lot of fires in my ward in the last little while, and it's gotten me thinking about the movement of the Blatchford Fire Hall, or the hall number 1 to Blatchford, and then the lag time between that move and the building out of, if approved, the Cumberland Fire Station. Because that's not supposed to go online till I think 2026. And in the profiles themselves, the capital profile for Blatchford, it specifically talks about response times being longer in the Northwest. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, our current estimates with the Blatchford move is we're still looking at probably 2.5 years before we'll see a station built. I'd defer to IAS though to have the accurate numbers on
yeah, and I'm not talking about the timing, but it's just there's clearly going to be a gap, and it was identified that in that gap there's going to be a decreased there's service call time, response time in the Northwest, which obviously concerns me because that concerns my residents that I represent. So I'm just trying to get a sense from you as the fire chief or from the city manager, what is the plan in that gap, whatever that gap is, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, it's inconsequential to me. What's the plan?
Yeah, our mitigation strategies around closing a station or moving a station, and we have a few under renovation right now, is we would redeploy units around the area to be able to cover in. So we may see 2 pumps at one station, or we may see other secondary units that support the pumps around stations to provide the most optimal response that we can into that area until the station's built. We have done things like looked at areas where we could lease and see if we can continue to provide service in the areas, which does have a larger impact to cost than one would think, but that's it'll be in budget and presented to have the Cumberland Station built in the next cycle.
But I think, Councillor, we can undertake to get that plan clarified and then brief you, and then give you some communications so that you can brief it to your constituents. Yeah,
I would greatly appreciate that.
We can undertake
Absolutely.
to do that.
And so, and then am I to understand that there's potential operating considerations as well that will be tabled as well? Because I know the capital has been tabled, but it sounds like, or did you explore the lease, but it was too cost prohibitive to actually do that?
Yeah, our initial review of looking into a lease, we'd be looking at identifying an area, making sure it has the access to the infrastructure and support it needs to actually support a fire station for a short term, which is apparatus, technology, power, all the needs. And it gets to a place where it's cost prohibitive because you're investing $500,000 for a year or two while you're renovating a station. So, but we still look, and that becomes an option if it is available, and we consider that.
No, absolutely, and I think that's great. I'm glad I asked those questions, and if there can be a bit of a brief on what that plan looks like, because whatever the timing of the capital profiles, there's clearly going to be a gap. So I'd like to be able to communicate the plan to my residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Jans.
Sorry, one final quick question. I'm interested in implications, positive or negative, to the insurance we pay as a city, both as corporate or for other stakeholders. Through all this EOC work, do we see what's the impact on our insurance?
I'll see if Ms. Plouffe wants to provide a statement on that.
I will do that. So I don't see a big change in our insurance premiums or program, Councillor Jans. I think it really is just part of the market generally. So I have not seen a shift in the cost of insurance or the difficulty of securing insurance for the city because of the activities that the EOC addresses.
What I would add, Councillor Jans. What I would add, Councillor Jans, is it's not so much an impact we're seeing on cities, but I do know for a fact that we saw huge impacts based on emergency management experiences with cost of insurance for schools throughout the province, for example, and other entities. So I think the concern is less about city administration's costs and more about the people that operate in the city and their cost for things like climate change impacts, quite frankly, because that is a serious cost going up for many different entities. And so not a direct, it certainly affects our partners, but more so them than us directly.
Yeah, no, I think there's a really good news story there around how, the city has helped mitigate costs. And, this is another budget story, I think, of how city services helped save Edmontonians time and money. So great work to all who are involved, and thank you for the second round.
Yeah, maybe just one last comment on that. The other cost increase we see, not so much with insurance, but is with infrastructure. So the added cost of making our infrastructure climate resilient, as we're seeing with the Fort Road underpass and things like that, you have to do a bunch of things that we didn't have to do 50 years ago to make sure they don't flood and things like that. So that's where we are seeing an absolutely increased costs, and it's part of our climate strategy to do those things from a mitigation perspective, but noting that they're more expensive.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jan. So that concludes the questions. We have a motion on the floor to receive this for information. Anyone would want to speak? I don't see anyone. Before I go to Councillor Rutherford, just want to thank once again to everyone involved for your hard work and all the coordination that happens. Sometimes happens in a very short amount of time that you need to mobilize all those resources. So really speaks to all the preparedness that has been done and also how you coordinate. So really appreciate that. Councillor Rutherford.
Sure. Yes. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to take a minute to reflect on the year that's passed and even, what the Emergency Management Agency did prior to, myself being elected in an unprecedented time of the pandemic and how you responded. I think that speaks to the importance of emergency preparedness. It's one of those things that the more well it's planned in advance, the more you don't notice it when it's going well. And I think that is indicative of what we've seen in those activations of the emergency EOC. And so I really just want to commend Andre, you and your team for the amazing work that you do behind the scenes to make sure that we are ready for anything, and we can make sure that we're mitigating the impacts of an emergency when and if it does arise. So I just want to take a minute and say thank you for that, and thank you for all your work. And I know a lot of it's unseen, but the more unseen it is, the better you're doing. So I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. So please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. On a separate note, Chief, I just want to convey to you that I had a meeting with Enoch Chief Cody last week, and he was really appreciative of the collaboration and cooperation that you have and the relationship that you have built with our neighbors, right? So I just wanted you to know that he was very appreciative of your work and your collaboration. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's it. No private reports, and we are adjourned. Right on.